just wanted to very quickly, the title of the live stream says it all again. One of the supported accommodations. Anyone who's new to my channel, I've gone on and on and on and on and on for hours and hours about the same things over and over again. But I bumped into a couple of Christians who often meet in one of the hotels, which remains anonymous, although it's obvious which one it is. Yeah, the homeless hotel, as the review put it. A hotel I used thousands of pounds of back severe disability on from September last year to the summer this year, which was June or July. And basically, I bumped into a couple of people. They're vulnerable, and I don't want to say, sort of give it away or talk about these people. Obviously, even if no one knows them, I like to protect people's identities to some degree. If you know, and these two gentlemen were telling me that they've got faith. They rely on their Christian faith. And I was just gassing away about everything that's happened and my current circumstances. And basically, one of them is living in a supported accommodation that apparently, and I've only got his word for it, but I believe him, and I'll give my reason why. One of the fellow licensees is on the same floor. This is supported accommodation, by the way. This is what Leslie, the Foodbank advocate, suggested I go into, right? Because I've already been in supported accommodation and been exploited when my mother was dying of cancer, because this is what I was talking about, social enterprise and people exploiting other people. But basically, yeah, there's a lot of this. If I can be, along with everyone else, exploited by a social worker landlord who's just in it for his pension, got a business partner, and he said I knew too much. He said I might want to check I haven't inherited my mother's cancer. His support worker brother said, "What the fuck were you doing up on Beachy Head drunk?" And I come from a middle-class background where I bought into all the lies and I thought these people were there to help us. And that's not the case. We were talking about Sussex Partnership, Tavistock Institute, how it's run by occultists, Satanism, it's all there. Everything I've said about Jeanette Archer, she was tortured at the Tavistock Institute. Was a victim of satanic ritual abuse. And one of the licensees in the place I was living in was a child client there. And she did paperwork for them. This is the Tavistock Institute. This guy that I want to meet, who's come out of the music industry, he's just said about the Tavistock Institute and how psychopaths work there. Yeah, I've got some stories for him because I want to tell him about Adamant. Because he's I mentioned Adamant, the British MK Ultra victim, and his dad was in the paedophile sex ring, and Adam's a Satanist, and his band members love Satan. They went to a church wearing T-shirts saying "I heart Satan" at a gig. But anyway, that's nothing. There's nothing new there. But I was telling these two chaps, because I've seen some things, and I met a victim of satanic ritual abuse on the Amberley ward, a South African woman, very well spoken, and because she's from the elitist. They're elitists, and it was a Freemason from Lewis who shoved her in there. So guys, you got to wake up. And at the same time, I met John Alexander Patterson, and the Ministry of Defence had shoved him in there. So yeah, I tell you what, I'm here for a reason, and I'm fighting it. And you ain't going to be giving me no injections, because Shani from the crisis team illegally forcibly injected me, which is a hangable offence under Nuremberg trials. Yes, it was John Patterson who told me that. They have to have a wet ink signature. She illegally forcibly injected me. Even if it's just sedation, I don't know what they injected me with. It's because they weren't giving me my phone to call the police over my possessions. They used Serco and Sussex Police as part of the human trafficking scam. So that's all it is. Serco. Millions of pounds thrown into this global human trafficking scam. And they tortured me with a psyops. And some of our police and social workers get their training from some of our police and social workers get their training from the Tavistock Institute of Satanic Human Relations, Mind Control, MK Ultra. The Beatles came out of there. You need to do the research for yourself, and don't look at what the United Nations are putting out there. Do the research. Agenda 2030, Tavistock Institute. That is why the police are targeting vulnerable people like me and using mental health as a weapon, and doing nothing about knife crime, and allowing your children to stab each other to death on the streets. You can choose to listen to what I'm saying. If you don't listen, you're gonna really suffer. Believe me, you're gonna suffer. You're gonna be in the pit of fire with the rest of them if you don't wake up. I know that this has been 30 years in the process coming to this. But everything that I was saying earlier about, it just makes me wonder, just the little things. Because when I was in supported accommodation, I mean, I've got my stories, but I didn't even say them at the time because I didn't know what I now know. And yet the social worker landlord was almost threatening me, telling me I knew too much. But I text my lady friend just my thoughts. I said, it does make me wonder now, because there was someone in supported accommodation who these fake people, support worker, they found it funny that I was being harassed by an old man who had a learning difficulty, who thought he owned the communal area. And my dying mother was the one who was angry about it. Why do you think I went off to the Adamant gigs and conventions? To get away from that nutty place. I've said this before. There was a woman in there, and I got to be sensitive how I say this, but she not without giving away too much, because it's like, even if nobody knows who I'm talking about, I want to be sensitive about what I'm saying. There was someone in there who suffered with schizophrenia, and oh yes, you bastard cretin social worker landlord, telling me I know too much. Yeah, and I'm going to speak out. Yeah. And she was schizophrenic, and people, I accept people, I, it's like when I was at college, they said, it was, in fact, it was exactly like being at college in Lewis, and of course, Satanic Lewis. Oh my gosh. I mean, the Freemason who had that victim of satanic ritual abuse shoved in the Amberley ward. Oh yeah, and she's had experiences like Jeanette Archer, by the way. Even John Patterson agreed with me. He said he was exposing satanic ritual abuse, and even he hadn't met a victim of satanic ritual abuse. I know, because I remember saying to that lady, she was in her late 60s. I said, I've heard that they eat babies and stuff, and she was like, yeah, I had to do that. Well, she had a very she had a South African accent, but also a mixed with an elitist, very English accent, because they are elitists. Because the people that were doing that to her when she was a child, they will have been English, talking with a plum in their mouth, and they forced her to do sexual things, all that stuff. Yeah. But when anyway, so getting back to supported accommodation, because they don't want me saying this, I'm going to bloody well say it. Call a spade a spade. When I went to college in Lewis, I failed my GCSEs. I realised now it's trauma. My mother said I was losing weight. I had a front page headline, not the Brave Bryony battles on, but another one where my mother wrote into the Gazette saying my daughter was bullied so badly at Seaford Head she had suicidal thoughts, blah, 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 blah. Now, when I was 15, it hadn't, obviously, it's only in recent years that it's poof, but back then, nobody knew anything was wrong with me. That's why I secretly overdosed on my antidepressants when I did care work, and I was bullied, and it made me physically sick doing care work. Being bullied by old matrons and care workers. But what I'm trying to say is my experience at college was very similar to supported accommodation in terms of discrimination. Okay? Because people have always taken me at face value, how I look, how I sound, how articulate I am. Oh, she's intelligent. Oh, she's this. Oh, she's that. Oh, but hang on a minute. I failed my GCSEs. Oh, I must be thick. So I then go to college at the age of 16, with no qualifications, maybe art. I should have gone into drama. But then I didn't want to sell my soul, did I? But well, my mother didn't really help. She said to me and my middle sister we wouldn't remember our lines, which is why my middle sister, who's living as a man, I haven't told Julie. I want to tell Juliet about this. She went on Pop Idol because she used to dress like Matt Goss. And she wasn't a brossette, but she was into bros. And now she's gone down the acting route, because it takes a whole lifetime to go through that trauma and to come out the other end, if you come out the other end. Because we don't drink. Well, they smoke. I don't drink, smoke, take drugs. They smoke, but that's it. There's no substance abuse or anything like that in our family. But the one thing that's never been talked about, brushed under the carpet, we have our disassociation techniques. So to get away, right, so I'm going off on a tangent. What I was saying about college, I was told by my college tutor that I was put on a course with people with severe disabilities. Now, I don't know what the PC word for it is. Well, put it this way. Ironically, one of the property managers in the accommodation called me an effing spastic, would you believe? Which is a hate crime. Now, I'm going to use that as part of my case. But I was put on a course with people with severe, in the old days, I don't know what the PC word is, but they called it like mentally handicapped. And they're the kind of people that my middle sister, who's living as a man, Blade, she cares. I don't want to call her, she's not a man, I'm going to call her Bronya. She, I even struggle just saying their names because that's part of my problem. It's difficult for me to, it's that disassociation thing. She cared, my middle sister cared for people with severe impairments, whatever the word is, people that were so severely impaired that one of them, a very large woman, like obese, knocked her unconscious, and she had problems with the people. And funnily enough, they were run by the same people that put me in supported accommodations, Southdown Housing Association, St Mary's House. She works for the same people that discriminated me. Okay, so I've been put in the same category as, and I'm not a snob, okay, right? Let's get this right. I am not a snob, but they have gaslit me, because the same people who are saying to me with their clipboards, yeah, you seem like an intelligent girl to me, Bryony. You seem to be, intelligent. You look glamorous. You look this. You look that. You sound intelligent. Blah de blah blah. And yet, when I was 16, I was on this course, and I saw the people. These were people who I can't say it, but you know what I mean. They were great. What is the PC word? What is the word they now use for mentally handicapped? As in, they can't even, you can't have a conversation with them. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't feel comfortable. It just doesn't seem right. I mean, I know I failed my GCSEs and everything. And what this awful group tutor did, and I really fucking, I've carried this anger, because you look back and you think, you are one of the people who've helped destroy my life. She went behind my back. I don't want to talk about, it's not something I'm happy to talk about. I'll only talk about it on the surface. But basically, to my face, she said, do you know what I think you are? A snob. But what? What? Because I don't think that I should be on a course with people who are so brain damaged you can't talk to them? People who are mentally handicapped? People like her, people like you, people like me. I mean, hello. And this is what she did, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So this is where it all started. She then goes behind my back and says to my mother, oh, I feel so bad. Oh, I shouldn't have said that to her. Oh, I saw her work. It was like A-level standard. Wow, A-level standard? My work was A-level standard? Me, who failed my GCSEs? Hello? Right? I now know, because nobody out there, no fuckwit out there has actually done the work. I've done the work. I've had an early midlife crisis a few years ago because a locum said me and my middle sister need trauma-based therapy, what the Vietnam War veterans had. Yes. The Americans have got it right, the National Institute of Mental Health. So what's going on with the deep state Britain, eh? All this gaslighting. You need to take responsibility for yourself. Stop living in the past. Get over your mother's death. All that bullshit, you know. In North America, they got it right. They got it right because they've had this knowledge, this secret knowledge, all this time. They're occultists. They know what they're doing. It's Tavistock Institute. So, relating what happened to me when I was 16 at college is no different to what happened to me in supported accommodation. It's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. You go around looking like $1 million. You don't need help with your mental health. So why was I dragged into the same building in handcuffs 3 years ago by the police? And they said, you couldn't make it up, that I need injections because I put up a protest at being dragged in there in handcuffs. You see what I mean? So that's my point. He said I knew too much, and I remember thinking to myself, but because I was so young, I was in my 20s, I thought, that's a strange thing to say. I know too much. Interestingly, I knew nothing back then. I know it all now because I've done the research. And now people are waking up. People are waking up. So, even the little ones, the young ones, the people I've met in these places and the things I've seen and the human trafficking that goes on, you know, people with conditions that shouldn't be in these places, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense. So, what I'm saying is trauma. The governments use trauma to control us, and they don't like me because it doesn't work. Doesn't work. And they were so angry with me because all the times they slammed the cell doors in my face, and I was on the tannoy, and they were abusing me so badly. They've up to 25 years each malfeasance of office. Even Andy Devine said there'll be people throwing themselves under buses when this all comes to light. We're talking about our UK police force. I realise now what they've been doing. John Patterson was put in there by the Ministry of Defence, the psychiatric unit. They're doing this to whistleblowers. He went to Scotland Yard with legalese documents. He said, don't kill yourself because that's what they want. Yes, you bastard, cretin piece of shit, Andy Francis. I do know too much. I didn't know it back then, though. But I'm learning, and I'm learning more and more and more. But as David Icke said, knowledge is not power unless you get off your ass and go out there. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out onto the street and I'm going to speak out. Telling me, oh, just be glad that you're not like Carol, who was locked up and not allowed out. They locked her up and they never allowed her out. Yeah. And is that my fault? They were almost having a go at me for going out looking like $1 million. I didn't want to do child modelling. I even had a chance to do adult, not that kind of modelling, fashion modelling. But because I was so idolising Adam Ant, And, I stopped. I've gotten rid of all the idolatry, all that satanic. You can idolize anything. Anything. That's what scripture says. But I was so into Adamant. I had to follow Adamant everywhere that I even turned down a £300 modeling job or something. And I was already too old, way too old. In the modeling industry, I was an old lady at the age of